Hey flower friends, welcome back to another Field and Garden podcast. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler of the Gardener's Workshop, and I am thrilled, literally, to be inside recording this podcast. I am, if you're new here, let me give you the lay of the land. So my little city flower farm is located in southeastern Virginia. And, we have hot, humid summers. That's pretty normal and classic for us. However, we are in a bit of a heat wave right now. We hovered at 100 degrees yesterday and again today. And, I'm just really happy to be inside a home that has air conditioning. So grateful that we have that. And, side note, Steve is my husband, Steve and I both worked laborious outdoor jobs most of our adult life. Steve owned a plumbing company with his family, and Steve was in charge of the big job crews, the ones that do big sewer lines and pump stations, all outside in the sweltering heat, as well as yours truly being a flower farmer for the past 25 plus years. And one of the things that has been constant through our life is that our home stays at a steady 65 degrees year round. I mean, we appreciate that in the wintertime too. So I am grateful that I am sitting here cool as a cucumber. I just came in from the garden, did a little live out there talking about how people can manage their plantings in this kind of heat, because heat is the reality, right? And the heat of summer has a lot to do about kind of what our topic is about today is what do you do when flower sales suddenly slow down? And that typically happens in the flower industry because people aren't usually having a lot of weddings during the heat of summer. There are some, but nothing like April, May, and June. And then on the other side of that, farmers markets and supermarket sales can go in the ditch because people are vacationing. So they aren't picking up their weekly bouquet maybe as often during this time. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Once people skip a couple of weeks of their habit of doing something like that, sometimes they just never get back to it. So sales can slow down suddenly. Before we jump into this topic, which I have had so much firsthand experience with this, before we jump in, especially if you're new here, I want to just give you a really warm welcome and to let you know that this podcast is made possible by thegardenersworkshop.com, which is home base to everything that we do. I mean, if you hear something on a podcast, see something on YouTube, or you're scrolling through social media and see something, you can usually learn more about it over at thegardenersworkshop.com, which is home to our online garden shop that only stocks those tools, seeds, and supplies in my books, the stuff that I use, as well as our live gardening show that demonstrates how I use all of that stuff, right? All of that can be found over at thegardenersworkshop.com, as well as our library of online courses, tons of free resources. You can subscribe to our farm news, which if you want to stay in the loop, we realize we have a lot going on at the Gardener's Workshop. And that is because we have people in all walks of life that have one common denominator. We all want to grow great cut flowers, some for pleasure, some for profit, but basically how you do it is the same for everybody and the stuff we do it with. And that's what the Gardener's Workshop is all about, y'all. So that's your friend. Drop in there when you need something, whether it's guidance or tools, seeds, supplies, books, resources, online courses, and it's all there ready and waiting for you. I'll warn you, once you go over there and fall in, it tends to consume you. And we do all of that because everything we do, y'all, we do for you, literally. So friends, let's jump back into this. What do you do when flower sales slow down. First off, if you are starting a flower farming business, or in your first or second or third or fourth year, and you've actually embraced some of our resources like Flower Farming School, this should not be a surprise to you that sales drop drastically in the summer for people that are not established. And even for those people that are established, you'll see a small hiccup. And I'll just give you this little sideline for me. So I started flower farming in 1998 with basically no resources other than the book, The Flower Farmer by Lynn Basinski. And that book was my gateway, the door that I walked through to start my flower farm. There weren't all these other resources that we have available to us today. And I just went to town growing flowers without any regard for the rest of the story. The good news was I came to this business through a business. I was a business, the office manager of a veterinarian hospital, which is very similar to a flower farm, y'all. They are doing 50 things at one time, very much like a flower farmer does. And so I came into it that way, but I didn't come into it knowing about this summer slowdown. And as many of you may be actually suffering from right now, is that in the dead of summer is when many people who aren't really taking the cool flower thing to the heights yet, the middle of summer is when they have the most flowers because they planted a ton of stuff at the first crack of spring, and now all of a sudden it's all blooming. And your weeds are growing and all that other mess too. But you are overcoming flowers, but guess what? Everybody's gone on vacation, nobody's having a party, and nobody's getting married. It is a grim spot to be, y'all. I have been there. And there is just this is, I will say, other than the weeds overtaken, or worse yet, people that start their businesses on credit and then all of a sudden the money's not flowing in like you thought. So weeds is one, lack of cash flow is two. Number three is you just are standing in a buckets and buckets of flowers with nowhere for them to go. But what I want to say to you is this should not be a surprise if you have educated yourself of starting a flower farming business, which we know that's one of the biggest problems we face is people coming in totally uneducated like I did. Fortunately for me, I made it through this time because I wasn't putting the bacon on the table at my house, and I was able to just dig my way out. And I will say that I'm a little crazy that way. And I have learned since then that not so many people are as confident as I wasn't really confident, y'all. It's my dyslexia, right? It makes me what we call a cliff jumper, which means I don't consider the consequences before I do something. And that's what helped push me through those early years. So with that saying, regardless of that, you really shouldn't be surprised by this if you are flower farming. And just this is your wake-up call to say there is education available you need to go get for this business thing, so you don't get caught again like this, because there's a whole bunch of other traps like this. This is your wake-up call to say you're not going to let this happen to you again. There are steps that you can actually take, and that's what I want to kind of flush out in this podcast. And I'm just going to run through them because I can't do a deep dive on all of them. The first one that I want to hit is something that I recommend you do not do, which I did. And it was the stupidest mistake, not the stupidest, because I've done some really stupid things. There are probably certainly dumber things that I've done. But this one, if you really think about it, it just doesn't make sense. Don't start doing some other stuff thinking that people just aren't buying flowers now. For instance, diversifying your offerings at this point in the game is probably not the smartest thing to do, because guess what? Florists are all slow at this time. There is nothing you can do. You can't even give your flowers away. You probably could, but they're just going to get dumped. That's not going to help. Something that I did that was really stupid was I thought, okay, I'll start taking to the farmer's market where there really was just slow foot traffic. I'll start offering something different. I started potting up seedlings and trying to sell plants. Well, people really are not gardening in the middle of the summer. As a now retailer of gardening stuff, I can tell you that when June comes, people stop because they don't understand succession planting and all that stuff. These are the uneducated gardening people. They really are not going to buy potted stuff that you're really not set up for, that you're going to have to spend money on, that you're going to waste so much time and labor on, that it's just going to be a train wreck. And I lived it. Carrying those train wreck plants to the farmer's market was so hard, y'all. You're not set up for it. Your truck's not set up for it. You have to keep them watered. So that's the number one thing I want to say to you is do not think that now is the time to diversify. Diversification is something you should do on a planned, something you've thought about, you've investigated, and then go into when is the optimal time to do that, right? I mean, if you want to sell plants, April and May is the time for most people. A lot of farmers now do that. I know my friend Amy of Amy's Garden, you've heard me talk about her. Amy's Organic Garden is her handle on Instagram. Follow her. She has great ideas. They do a plant sale in April that just loads her account in the beginning. And that's when you do that, not now. So the other thing, so that was the first thing I thought of, is what not to do. The other thing is now is the time, if you're not selling your flowers, and I know you're belly aching, I know you're sick, you know your cash account is probably screaming, but you have to rise above that and make use of these unsold flowers. And that is through imaging and videoing. This is when you build your libraries of stuff, of images and videos to use all season long, y'all. All season. Do you think that every image that you look at on social is in that moment? No. Most of us, I mean, I have more images and videos that I want to confess to. Right now on my phone is over 38,000 videos and images. I buy the biggest phone available, the biggest memory, and there's reasons for that because I am constantly taking videos and images. And then when you have a sea of buckets of flowers that are not sold, don't just give them away. Plan a whole workday of doing nothing but photo shooting. A tripod, less than $30, y'all, for your phone, and your phone is the party day. And you just take so many images and videos, fun stuff, dumb stuff, blooper stuff, gorgeous stuff, up close stuff. Be in your garden taking images of, your weedy mess. The people love watching butterflies and bees in the garden. And that's stuff that connects with your community, which we'll talk about that in a minute here. But you're going to build up your bank. So don't look at this as the time to just sit there and cry in your cereal. Just say, okay, I'm not selling these flowers. What is the biggest bang for my buck? Build up, because I will tell you, I see so many crummy images and videos. Y'all, you have to just, one evening, instead of laying in bed, death scrolling, start looking at the stuff or considering the stuff that stops you. It's what's in the background. How close up is that? Theirs is so focused. This might mean maybe it's time to buy a new phone, y'all. That is a number one tool for your business is your phone. That's a device. And I literally could run my business from my phone. So don't think that you're just dumping those flowers. You need to be smart and jump on making the most use out of your unsold flowers. They're going to become your main driver in your marketing strategies. They're going to give you what you need to be able to do that, right? So that's one. Then the other thing is, well, if you're not selling flowers, that means you're not spending so much time delivering and doing other things. Ramp up your social postings, because you really should have a lot of great images now, right? And just make a plan on engaging with your customers more and building your community. And the other thing is, friends, are you posting to impress other flower farmers, or are you posting for your local community, right? That's a big switch to flip. You know, for me, I teetered on that wall for a long time. I'm all about teaching people how to grow flowers now, right? No matter, are you a gardener or are you a flower farmer? And you want to use your flowers, your garden, your kids, your pets, your weeds as the hook to bring people into your community. Because I can promise you, people are very interested. They're enamored with flower farming, and you have everything you need to pull them into your community. And then you have to figure out how to connect with your local community. And ramping up that time is now. And then there's things you might consider doing in the middle of summer when nobody's doing anything. Consider doing things that you might not offer any other time, because you want to make them exclusive. What might that be? So if you've got a garden full of flowers and no sales, why would you not do you pick on an evening, bring your own beverage, whatever that is, because you don't want to have to be worrying about serving people, and have a 4-hour window where you provide the clippers, the containers, charge a flat rate, doesn't matter how many. It does not matter. Don't even worry about, oh my gosh, that's not enough. What if they cut all the dahlias? Oh, well, most people are not greedy like that when they're with other people. So thinking about saying there's, from 6 to 8 or whatever your window is, during the long days, we could actually do it almost up to 9 o'clock of come and cutting your own flowers, and only do it a couple of times to make it exclusive, fill it up. You have to think, how many people can you park safely, right? Make them purchase their tickets to do this online. Anybody can get their PayPal or Venmo set up and have a link to it. You don't have any walk-ups. You want to know how many people are coming. It is pre-sale only. There's so many things you can do like that, y'all. You have to think about that. And doing those things during the slowest flower sales time can really change your business, right? And then all those people, the people that might come walk around your garden are probably maybe not the people that are coming to the market or knowing that your flowers are available at this boutique or this supermarket, right? You're building your community and creating some cash flow. And the other thing that I did a lot of, we had a bunch of subscriptions this time of year, because we did 5, 10, and 20-week subscriptions. If you're one of my flower farming students, you have access to all that information, to what the copy was on my website, the behind the scenes, all of that stuff. This is the time of the year where you're already, those are automatic flower. You've already been paid for it. We didn't do any payment plans or pay as you go. They bought up front, and then I delivered throughout the season. And now is a time where those people are really helping to float your boat, right? If you budgeted properly. So subscription models are really paying off now during this slow part of the season. I see a lot of people doing like 4-week subscriptions. I just don't think you're going to sell a subscription this time of the year. If you sold a 20-week subscription back in April when everybody, or better yet, Valentine's Day, or on Mother's Day, when people are just buying into that more than they are right now, but they're reaping the benefit of that now, right? So subscriptions pay off. And then here's another one. Harvest now for added value products. And what is that? That is, for us, there's a lot of things you can do, but I have found that most of them are really not profitable when it's all said and done, unless you are extremely systematic. I mean, meaning you have a system set up that streamlines it. And we did do that on one added value product, and that is fall wreaths. And we have been very exclusive about what we do that with. We're expanding that now. So the thing about selling in October is the big month. That's when people are thinking fall, getting ready for fall, and of course they can spill over into November. If you have access to a way to sell locally, wreaths, this can be a real gold mine for you. You could spend the entire summer of slow sales where you don't even go to farmers markets in summer. I have so many students that are doing this now. They literally shut down their harvesting process to get ready for fall, the next big season, and or growing those things in summer that harvest for great fall wreath ingredients. The rooster peppers, those are cash cows, y'all. We have the exclusive seed to that. You can find it in our shop. And if you happen to be in my club, that's one of the fall and winter projects we do together. How I make those so quick and easy, y'all. That's the key. You cannot spend 4 hours making anything and make money. You have to make 3 wreaths in an hour to make money. So the rooster peppers make that easy. You grow those in summer. You harvest and prepare the bunches in summer and then hang them to prepare them. There's other crops you can do that with. Billy balls, which is actually a cool flower, straw flowers, and we're experimenting, amobium. A lot of the cool flowers dry really well. We don't make wreaths like mixed, beautiful dried wreaths like you'll see people doing. They are incredibly labor intensive, and you have to charge $100 at least. And be good at it. I'm not good at it. I'm looking for quick and easy. You're already investing a lot of time to harvest it, make the little bunches, and then be able to dry them properly and have them ready to make wreaths. So that is another thought for summer, right? And the other thing to remember is some people will say, try to actually build community and partnerships with other farms. They are facing the same things that you are. I say now is not the time. The time to strike that match is when everybody is hungry in early spring. The customers are just crazy for everything fresh and growing, coming out of winter. That is the time to strike that match. And here's the other thing I want to say. During this slow time, you learn very quickly about budgeting your income. For me, back in the early days when I was still just flower farming, I really didn't have all of the other arms of our business, and we relied on flower sales as our income. And I started having employees, and one of the things you quickly learn when you become an employer is there's a lot of added expenses that nobody tells you about. First off, if you have an employee in my state anyway, in Virginia, you have to have workman's comp. You don't have to pay for workman's comp for you, but you count, as well as any family members. I was under the impression at first that if it was my sister and my niece working for me, I didn't fall under that rule, and that's just not true. So workman's comp comes into the picture when you have employees, and we started that in the middle of summer. In July is when my workman's comp premium is always due. And it's a chunk. It is now. Back then, it was a chunk when you compared to what my income was back then. And I had to have that money to pay it. They don't let you pay on time when you're first starting. You pay the whole premium, right? So budgeting your money, even though the money, that spring money, that cash flow, oh my goodness, friends, You have to pay sales tax. There's just so many things that you need to not just blow through the bucks when they're rolling, because you need to put it aside for expenses for the rest of the season, even when cash flow is choking you. So that is something to think about. The other thing, that I always say, I'm always harping on this because it's just so true. You have to make time, and now is a great time to continuing your education. Continuing education is part of being a business person. You never learn it all. You never, ever, ever learn it all and are not able to, you never arrive is what I'm trying to say, y'all. Here I am in business almost 30 years later, and I still have dark holes that I have not gone down yet, that are scary, and I have to stop and learn and revamp and reset. First off, if you just absolutely are in the mud wallowing and your garden is out of control, overgrown with weeds, take a step back, mow your garden down, decide not to sell for the next 6 weeks, and spend the next 6 weeks getting your garden ready for fall, meaning seed starting, planting, getting ready for fall planting of cool flowers or preparing for cool flowers. You have to rise above it. That's what I have learned. It's like, I think one of the reasons I have been so successful is I am so quick to kick something to the ditch. And I know that is hard for some of the people that work for me, because let's say I come up with a harebrained idea. A lot of my ideas are harebrained because I'll voice it to the team, and the team hears Lisa wants to do this, but Lisa hasn't really thought deep about this yet. It's just running out of my mouth, right? Which is kind of my gift, but it gets me into trouble, like I'm telling you. So I will spill the beans on some idea that I have, and then my team is like, okay, let's do this. And then a couple weeks in, it's like it's becoming clear to me that this is not at all what I was thinking, or it's going to be so much deeper, wider, costly, not really on our lane. Maybe it's not a good idea, and I'll think, okay, forget that. That is hard for some people. It's really hard because they feel like they've invested. But friends, this is what I want to say to you. Just because you have invested time and money in something, if it is not going right, stop beating a dead idea. Ditch it, mow it, and move on, because while you're belly aching over that or trying to keep after it, the next thing you really should be doing is going by. It's sailing past you, and it's getting more in your rear view mirror instead of in your front view. And this is the time of year that we get sucked into this. And I know, because I've been sucked into it so many dadgum times, right? And I'm going to wrap up with this. Sharing this journey, your story with people is where it's at. People are so interested in what you're doing, especially for, let's just say you have a small community of 100 people that follow you. First off, if you haven't already asked on a regular basis every week your friends and family to friends, I just want to remind you, by liking and sharing my posts, you have no idea how much this helps me. Every week you should be asking your people that already like you to do that, because first off, less than 5% of the people that follow you see that. And so it's not like you're constantly nagging them. They don't see it that way. You don't want to cry too much on social media, but people do sympathize and understand. It's like, y'all, I am on this new journey. I'm realizing now I have so many beautiful flowers right now, but everybody's on vacation. My florists don't have any business, and I'm just trying to find my way. So guess what I did yesterday? I spent the day doing photo shoots and then you can make images. There's so many ways. In Instagram, under edits, you could take 100 images and just flash them. Just give them a second bleep of that image and just say, I did all this yesterday and look forward to me sharing this with you over the next 30 days of my journey. Like, they see it, but they can't really see. What was she doing? Do you see what I mean? People love this, and then spend the next 30 days sharing your journey of the struggle, the wins, the butterflies, the bees, the weeds, your kids wanting to go to the beach, but you know you have to work, and how you manage that. That's what happens when flower sales slow down. It can really be full of some treasures, y'all. It's full of the treasures that can prepare you to never let this happen again. Because, y'all, I'm telling you, I'm full of ideas. And then you just have to pick a couple and make it happen. By facing these fears and uncertainties of these times and just stop belly aching and rise above it. Just, you are the only one that can decide this. You know, my husband taught me this a long time ago, early on in business, colleague day. How many crises did I have? One that was ongoing and still is. Their cash flow is a problem in all businesses for the life of the business. Because even if you are set up to take care of it, that means you're dipping into your backup money, but you have to put that backup money back. So you don't ever relieve yourself of that worry. My husband shared with me at the breakfast table so many wisdoms. One of those wisdoms was, it was like, well, how much do you have to pay, or whatever the problem was? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't really looked. And he was like, sugar, do you not realize that just because you don't look doesn't make it go away? You have to look, because then we can figure it out together. And that's what I'm saying to you, friends. Face the fear. So often we think that the fear is an ocean of waves and deep water, but in fact, it's a little mud puddle that's only an inch deep, and you can like splash right through it. So friends, make the most out of slow flower sales, because that's going to be forever if you're a flower farmer or in business. And there's just so much opportunity here that I hope that I have helped you. And remember, friends, sign up for the Farm News, because it'll keep you informed of all this kind of stuff. And my friends, until we meet again, signing off in 100-degree Virginia, where I am sure flower sales are flat as a pancake. Ciao.